G'day Reefers, I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Welcome to Gallery Aquatica TV. So welcome to Coffin Reef. You may remember Coffin Reef from the Great Tank Swap. Today we're going to be looking at its RO filter, and we're going to be servicing the filter and showing you everything to do with automatic top-up systems. So let's get straight into this video. So around about 6 months ago, we swapped the tank of Coffin Reef. So when we did this, we took the old tank out, which was scratched and leaking, and we replaced it with this beautiful new tank. But in the last couple of weeks, we've noticed that the tank has developed a little bit of an algae problem. And so as part of the things that we look for with the algae, we've looked at the RO filter, and we've realized that our RO filter isn't really doing the job that it should be, and its TDS is a little bit high. So we'll show you the RO top-up system for this tank, we'll explain what the TDS is and how it will affect the algae in this tank, and we'll do a full service on this RO filter. So this is our RODI filter. Now the way that we're running this automatic top-up system is we have a tap which is underneath the tank down the end of the cabinet, which actually feeds water directly into the unit. Now from the unit, the water is filtered and is fed straight back into the sump. We have our little TUNS automatic top-up system, and so it has two sensors in here which allow the water to feed into the tank to maintain a steady water level. This is a little bit different to how most of our RO filter systems work. Typically we have a reservoir and a different sensor which feeds water from the reservoir with a little pump into the sump. But we've gone with this system because it's a little bit more space efficient and because we're lucky enough to have a tap inside the cabinet. So let's have a look at the TDS and we'll explain what that means. So one of the beautiful things about this RO filter system is that it has a dual inline TDS meter. Now TDS is the total dissolved solids and it's measured in parts per million. Now this is a dual sensor, so what it actually detects is it will measure the TDS of the water coming into the unit as well as the TDS of the water going out of the unit. Now with Brisbane town water, the water that goes into this filter is 200, and it's currently 207 ppm. So this is the input water, and it is filtered down, and with this unit at the moment, the output is 10 ppm. Now typically we try and maintain filtered water around about, well, less than 3 parts per million. So 10 is way too high and it could be contributing to the algae. Now this is one way to measure TDS. We also have a handheld TDS meter, and so we're using this today to verify that this is correct. And so this is some water straight out of the filter, and it's actually measuring 14 ppm, 14 parts per million, which again is too high. So they're not reading exactly the same, but they're certainly suggesting to me that we need to replace the different cartridges on this RO filter. So we'll show you how we change the RO filter canisters. We're going to replace all these cartridges in situ. So in other words, we're going to leave the RO unit pretty much where it is. We'll just pull it out of the cabinet, which saves us from taking things apart. It would probably be a little bit better to take it off and do this in the sink because it can be a little bit messy, but we're going to do it in situ today. So this is everything that we need for the job. And so we have one of each of the cartridges, and we'll just run you through them quickly and what they are. This is the RO membrane, and this is actually something that today we're not going to replace, and the reason for that is you typically only replace this every couple of years depending on how much water you do create, but I brought this just for demonstration. But the three that we're going to be replacing are the de-ionization resin, This is carbon in a canister. And we have a 5 micron sediment trap. So these three are going to be replaced in our RODI filter, and we have a very handy tool as well for the job. So this is actually a handle that allows us to easily remove each of these cartridges off the RO filter. Alright, so it's time to replace the cartridges on this filter. So you can see just how dirty this sediment trap is. Now this is the first stage of our RODI filter, and so this really cops the brunt of the bulk of the sediment that comes into the filter. But this is well and truly due for a clean. So put that in there, and we'll tip out the water that was in this canister. We'll get our brand new sediment trap. Now the key with your RO filter is to ensure that you've got a good seal on everything that you open up. And you can see that this unit has got a nice big black O-ring which is going to create the seal, and so we need to ensure that when we put this back on that the O-ring seals clearly up into the unit. So there's our sediment trap, just sits in like so, and we'll put this back on. So this is our carbon cartridge. So got a replacement one here. This gets thrown straight out. Tip out the water. So the resin is a little bit different from the other two that we've replaced already, in that we actually reuse the cartridge that it comes in. So I'm going to open this up, tip out the old resin, and then put the new resin in. Now this can be really messy, so I'm just going to tip it in here into the bucket for now, and then I'll ensure that I've disposed of this properly in the bin. So I've just given it a quick rinse, and now we'll put our new resin in. So again, this can be really messy, so it is good to do this over a sink, but I'm just going to be particularly careful. And so we're just going to put the resin in this cartridge, and so you might notice the color of this resin. It's a real nice sort of blue, greeny blue sort of color. Now, one of the good things about this Reef Pure RO resin is that it does actually change color when it's exhausted. And so it'll go like a browny orange sort of color. Now, with this filter system, with this RO unit, we can't actually see through the canister to see the color change, but at Gallery Aquatica, the units that we sell have got a clear canister for the DI, so you can actually tell when it's exhausted. So that's it. Just put this sponge back on, and if you've got any on the outside of this cartridge, you just want to clean it off. I haven't made too much of a mess. So now it's ready to go back onto the unit. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get this unit running so that there's water flowing through it. I'm going to give it about half an hour or so, and then I'll see what the TDS is, and hopefully it'll be reading at 0. So as you can see, our cartridges and media are really dirty, and so basically all the colour that's in here is waste that would have otherwise gone into your tank and potentially caused an accumulation of contaminants. So this definitely needed to be cleaned out. We've been running our RO filter with the new cartridges for getting close to an hour now, and so I can be confident that any contaminants have flushed through. Most importantly, we're getting a reading of 0 ppm on our TDS meter. So that's exactly what we want to see, and now we can have confidence that we will put this filter, this RO filter, back on the system, and it won't be contributing to any contamination of the system. Something I haven't mentioned about RO filters is that you do have to be very careful that there are no leaks on the unit. So I've ensured that each of the cartridges that we've removed have been properly screwed back on in place, and I've checked for leaks on all 3, as well as at all the points that the tubing feeds into. So all we have to do now is put the unit back in place and put it back in so it's feeding into the system, and that's really everything that we need to do with our RO filter for today. So we'll keep an eye on the TDS of the RO filter in this tank. Normally we'd change the cartridges when it gets to about maybe 3 ppm, but this is good for now. So maybe in another 6 months we'll come back and we'll have a look at where it's going. So that's our video for today. I hope you've learned something about RO filters and automatic top-up systems, and we'll bring you more footage of this tank on future episodes of Gallery Aquatica TV. So for now, I'm Cam the Fish Guy, and happy reefing. So that's our video for today. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe as well. We'll be putting out videos every week showing a new tank with new products. There's going to be lots in all the videos. I'm Cam the Fish Guy, and keep on reefing.